Welcome to the Texas Metal Show. I'm your host, John fucking Winningham, and on this episode, Elizabeth and I traveled to the cactus-filled hellscape that is San Antonio to talk to Cursus. Let the summer solstice sessions begin. I'd like to introduce CJ and Sarah of Cursus.
Howdy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having us over at y'all's place. I'm really excited to have y'all on our show. I was made aware of Cursus, I think 2 years ago at Bayou Doomfest in Houston. You guys played either right before or right after Destroyer of Light downstairs at Fitzgerald's, and I remember thinking like, holy shit, these two people are like absolutely fantastic, because this was right as I was kind of getting into the Doom scene and like meeting people and like actually going to local shows instead of like just big name bands that came around, and that was a great show. And so of course I think I've caught you guys every time you've come back, which has only been like maybe 2 or 3 times, something like that. So why don't you guys give me a brief history of how Cursus became a thing?
Well, essentially, we had started, of course, with our similar taste in music. You know, of course, like old rock, old Sabbath, of course, old Zeppelin stuff. And, of course, yeah, we kind of grew into, a heavier taste, of course, over time. We just felt like, we could pull it off since, she had some kind of musical background, but especially like with playing guitar. I actually thought she was a little cleaner playing than me. But we just started kind of pumping out just heavy music, down-tuned stuff. A lot of it was experimental. Some of it was kind of droney, not really cohesive, I could say. It's like putting songs together. Essentially, it was us just kind of freestyling. And then after a while, we kind of got a small recorder and started to take it a little more seriously. And that actually kind of changed the aspect of the songwriting, because we could actually hear back what we were doing, and kind of, it helped us shape kind of the sound slowly. And we started to work off of what, a foundation, I guess, that we had kind of started. So.
Oh yeah, I guess so. I'd say maybe about 3.5 years ago or something like that. He kind of just wanted somebody to jam with, with some ideas he had. And I've been a guitar player and a singer for years and years, but I had never played drums before. He just showed me the basic idea, and I was like, oh, that's all you do? And we started jamming.
That's all you do.
Yeah, and we started jamming, and everything just kept coming out heavy and slow. And it might have had something to do with, the substances we're on while we're practicing, but it just sort of kind of formed organically,
How long have you two been together?
Oh, on and off 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, probably say about 7 years. It
7
seems
years.
about right. Yeah.
And you guys just decided, you know what? We're going to make some badass music together. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. Like, I recently started dating Elizabeth. Well, it's been like
6 months.
6 months or so. And, like, she wants to go to shows. Like, she's like, yeah, I want to go see this band, even though I have to get up at 5 in the morning and go to work the next day. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's kind of cool to have somebody to share, at least musically, in common.
Yeah.
Because I've never dated anybody who's like, hell yeah, I want to go to this death metal show. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, like, mind-boggling.
Yeah, I think when we both met, we already had, like, a lot of similar interests, like, really wide variety. We both like metal, punk, like death metal, surf rock, all kinds of stuff, and industrial. And I think all those kind of influences sort of meshed together, really well with the two of us. I got kind of lucky, I guess.
Yeah, well, like, I guess with the upbringing of the music, it always starts with the similarity in music taste. But I gotta admit that it's not that easy to find somebody, I guess, that on also on the same music level as you, but I mean somebody that actually wants to pursue playing in, you know, bars and things like that, staying up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning all the time, hauling equipment around. So it kind of takes a certain dynamic within the relationship, and also kind of an understanding that it's not going to be easy. It's not, you know, super glamorous or anything. And that it's something that kind of speaks to our lifestyle, I guess, with the friends and stuff and kind of family that we pick up along the way and stuff. It's it's definitely lifestyle oriented. So I mean, a lot of our lives revolve around helping other bands, bringing other bands into town, helping people get what they need, helping other bands borrow equipment. So we're definitely into, like, you know, the DIY movement and helping other bands along with what we're doing and pulling along as well. So but she's definitely been a big help. It's definitely nobody does more than the other person. We're always pulling our own weight, and we kind of have to do a lot as a two-piece. You know what I mean? It's essentially we do everything.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more work for us to split up between the two of us than maybe a band with like 3, 4, 5 people. You know, so we've kind of discovered that we need to sort of just know who's best at what, and kind of we just split the stuff up. Like I do a lot of the booking and stuff like that, and he.
Yeah, I do a lot of the artwork. The designing of like covers for things, our flyers, I design our T-shirts. I print all our own shirts. We make our own stickers, or you know what I mean. We any way that we can essentially make a lot of our own stuff. I'm real hands-on, so she'll be assisting me sometimes, and if there's other things, that she's really good at communication, so she handles a lot of that.
So you two are about to embark, if correct me if I am not right here, your 2016 spring tour, which kicks off tonight.
Yes, that's so.
Yeah, here in San Antonio at a local place, The Mix. Great place, good beer. They've always helped support us. We'll be playing with Witch Crier and Cosmic Behemoth. Great bands. Actually, Witch Crier's first show, going to be on. It's great guys.
One of CJ's old bandmates, actually from Pill Crusher, Maryland, is in the band. So
I played guitar for Pill Crusher in the early 2000s, and essentially it's almost essentially like me kind of coming full circle and doing some heavier stuff again. It had been a while since I kind of started pumping my amps and bringing my guitar strings down and stuff like that. So it had been a while. I'd kind of missed some really heavy stuff in my life. So, it should be a great show. I think it's going to be like about 3 weeks of a tour. We're going to cover a lot more ground, a lot more of the West Coast than we had before.
Yeah, this will be the longest one we've done so far. We've just kind of been gradually building up instead of jumping in head first, been getting our feet wet, started with like weekend kind of runs and then building up to a week, 2 weeks, and then just going from there.
So with a 3-week tour looming over your heads, how do you guys balance your regular life outside of music with going, all right, everybody, we're leaving for 3 weeks to go on the road to play our particularly fantastic style of metal? What's the process behind that? Do you guys have to be like, all right, bosses, we're leaving? Or what do you guys do for work that allows you to undertake this kind of project?
I've been working for a tattoo shop for 7 years. The owners are close friends of mine. So I've kind of gotten to where I can kind of do what I want there pretty much. If I need time off, they're totally fine with me. So after just being there for a while, they have my back. As far as my kids, my dad helps out a lot. I mean, I don't think we'd be able to do what we're doing or getting out on the road as much as we do if I didn't have my dad to help out. That's... and then on top of that, our roommate takes care of all our animals while we're out of town. So, thanks, T-Bird.
And also as well, I was working part-time for a while, but it didn't work out for me. Essentially, I've been an engraver, and I've made essentially merchandise and stuff for bands and businesses for the past few years. So I just decided to take it on like full time and kind of run my own business. And essentially, I love it because I get to help other bands like make their merch, and essentially feels like a huge circle of me helping other people. They're helping us, and essentially it puts a little bit of my money in my pocket to pay some bills. And essentially I don't have to tell a boss to fuck off, you know, because I guess like, you know, kind of make my own hours and stuff, which is a very huge part of like giving us the freedom to tour. Because that, I mean, we gotta admit, I mean, being in music for about 20 years now, that's one of the most difficult things to do, is make sure that you got everything down on the home front, all the bills paid, and then you can actually, you know, take off and come back and things are taken care of. It definitely takes a little bit of planning, some responsibility, and I think a little control of the reins and stuff, because if it really came down to somebody dictating whether you could leave out of town or not like that, most of the time you probably wouldn't be able to. So it's almost decisions, I guess, that you have to make based on what kind of priorities you want to make for yourself or how important it is to you. And since it doesn't seem to be changing as far as my passions go toward music, I'm going to continue to be doing this and making amends to make the tour life happen. I think it's very crucial to a band's growth, and I want to say growth and not the word success, because I mean, there's different levels of success I think that people want to measure themselves by, but it's growth. I think by any way it strengthens you. It'll also let you know what things you're missing, and you know what you might need to do to be better or to grow as a band. I guess a tour definitely tests you every time, I could say that.
I mean, that's, at least to me personally, that's kind of like the ultimate goal, learning how to generate your own revenue stream without being completely reliant on somebody else who can go, oh, hey, CJ, you're fired. Have a great day. And you're like, well, fuck, you know, now we can't go on our tour. We're going to take our first musical break. This one is called Temples of Saturn.
The full moon became like blood. And the great mountain burning with fire. Was thrown into the sea. And the beast descends from the mountains.
tell me about the name Cursus. How did you guys eventually come to settle on Cursus for your band name? Does it have any like personal significance or?
Well, I definitely didn't want something that a lot of other bands in our sort of genre might have. There's a lot of, which is really cool, witches and wizards and all that. I just wanted something that stood out a little more, and it took us a while. We were kind of going through a lot of different things, but I found Cursus. It's a Latin word, and it means course or way, path. But there's these parallel paths around Stonehenge, and they're very old. They don't know who put them there or what they were for. They think they may have been for funeral processions or magical purposes. They're completely parallel, and they go for miles. And it's just sort of a mystery, and I really, really dug that. And it just kind of stuck. I mean, we had a pretty big list of names we were trying out, but I think we both liked that one the best.
I mean, I really like the idea, like when she mentioned like Stonehenge and like a lot of, a lot of ancient stories and things. I talk about a lot of history, a lot of real things that I guess
Well, that's perfect because the like English or European paganism, like all of that history was just completely obliterated with like the Roman Empire. Like people like to think that like the pagan rites they're practicing in real life are ancient pagan rites, but sadly almost all of that shit was almost completely destroyed by the Roman Catholics when they took over. So this is kind of very fitting.
Yeah, it was kind of cool that we found it. We both felt the same way. It's like, well, that is pretty fitting.
And I really don't know. It just seems to kind of embody the sound. I'm just getting maybe kind of a luck type of thing that fell between us. But yeah, we like the name. We kind of think that it's kind of starting to stand for like our style, I guess, of music, which is what we like. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe we're kind of falling into the name a little better or something.
The name, for me personally, I think I've seen you guys 3 times now. Like the atmosphere and like the energy you guys put forth on stage with your music, I feel like it definitely all fits together. Like Cursus is a very good name for the vibe that you get when you go see one of your shows.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, we essentially we wanted to, and especially too with the our future songwritings, we want to kind of create a sense of like atmosphere and distance, space within some of the music. And we felt, or at least I felt really strongly about not trying to rush the songs or trying to sound the heaviest or trying to sound the fastest. I think it was more about like what kind of consciousness essentially that we're in, like what type of state of mind that we're in, that we're trying to convey. That it's, to me, it's very meditative. And I think, it kind of pulls from some of those sources, I think. So I think you hear a lot of that in the music, almost kind of a spaciness to it.
What is y'all's process from your first ideas from a song, a first concept from a song, to your actual recording process and like the final product that we're hearing on a record or live?
I think the process is we experiment a little bit, and I think that gives a little bit of difference to some of the music. Sometimes I'll come up with a name, and essentially I'll write within what kind of emotion or what the concept of what the song means to me, essentially. Or another way that we wrote one of our another song, one of our older ones, or one that might be featured in an album. It's called "And Her Wings Covered the Sky." That one, essentially, we stopped everything. I put the guitars down, and we totally went with a different drum beat that we would never use, and it was kind of very like tribal and organic, and it feels really a lot more truer to our sound than anything else that we've done. And it felt like, maybe we needed to throw away some traditionalism and kind of start something different and fresh. And that song, I think, has actually kind of helped shape the rest of almost what the band became, because the response to it was, you could tell that there was something a little different. People were like, what was that? And Yeah, because I guess it was a real non-traditional how essentially it's layered and the song changes every time. And it's more like in I guess you could say movements and pieces, and essentially it continues to build. And I think that was one of the processes, along with maybe just writing to a name. Of course, there's also the other way that we just kind of just crank up. We tune everything up, power everything on, and just kind of feel with where the energy takes us.
I think one of the most important things that we do is, we get down here and we jam, but we try to record it a lot of times because, we're not going to remember it the next day. We're down here jamming till 3, 4 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So that's where a lot of our songs have come up. The next day we'll listen to it and be like, oh shit, that was a good one.
And we do, I guess, have the luxury of a basement. We, a lot of bands don't have the 4 or 5 hour recording times that, some places have to, cut it off 2-3 hours into a time. Or so sometimes we'll dedicate ourselves or a weekend night or whatever, to essentially just trying to make music, and things kind of come in. They almost present themselves as songs already, and other parts or are kind of like interludes, and we take parts of the songs that we think like had strength to them or fluidity, I guess you could say, and we kind of weave them into something that can be a part of something else. But yeah, she's right. A good part of it is having a catalog of it, because we cover so much ground and we play so long. And yeah, we don't have a clock down here in our basement, so sometimes like it can go by for hours, or we can lift our basement door and it's daylight outside. So yeah, sometimes we get a little carried away, but then we want to say that we pulled away with at least a couple the really good pieces that really grew out of the sound that we're trying to cultivate, which is great.
Yeah, and I think it's really helpful that we live in the country and we have a basement, so we can literally get up and practice whenever we want. If he has an idea, at 1 a.m., we don't have any problem coming down here and playing loud,
Nobody's going to come bang on your door and be like,
We've
hey, guys, turn that shit down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we live together as well, so that's like something that a lot of bands don't have either, If he's got an idea, it's just the two of us. We don't have to get like a practice day together and try to, wrangle everybody in their job schedules. We see each other every day.
You were just constantly able to work on your art whenever you feel the muse strike you, and not have to be like, oh man, Brandon can't make it on Saturday, so fuck, I guess we're not going to practice.
That and I notice it, it goes kind of both ways. We know that the basement's here, and sometimes we get so busy we can't do it, and other times we try to make all up for it like on one day and then just go and jam, because sometimes we get busy, of course, but we definitely try to make use of the fact that that we have a space that we can work with and make music in like a little more comfortably than a lot people. But it is definitely, you could tell it's an important part of the music process is to have the availability to do it when something strikes, I guess, and yeah, she's right. Sometimes it does happen to strike you at 1 o'clock at night or whatnot. So
yeah. And we've done all the recordings down here in the basement, everything we've recorded so far. We've had a few different people mix stuff for us, but yeah, the basic stuff we do right down here. CJ kind of sets all that up. And
admit also I guess I gotta admit the 2-piece thing does lend itself to kind of songs kind of coming about a lot quicker. I guess it's not necessarily that we don't want a bass player, because that's been brought up, and some people wonder why we play without a bass and things like that. It's really just the accessibility that me and Sarah have with each other or that type of thing. So essentially we're trying to do more with less. Essentially we try to keep heavy solid beats, large sounding guitar frequencies, either using a bass amp gear, using some nice 3412s, I want to say that sound always is kind of revolving, and I'm introducing new things into it, but the strength of it is just based off of rhythm and drums, the guitar rhythm and drums, and essentially we're just trying to keep it simple is essentially what we're doing. We're not necessarily opposed to a bass player. We just we like to fill some bass frequencies in essentially, And it's just, yeah, we just find it easier to kind of communicate with each other back and forth. We kind of know what we need and want. So
It's worked so far.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
It works fairly well. I mean, I can't say that I've never not enjoyed listening to your music or seeing you guys play live. You guys are actually one of my favorites to go see. There's just something about like what you make with your music on a level that I can't even describe. You know, I don't know how to put it. Like the way your music makes me feel and the atmosphere that it generates is just fucking fantastic. I absolutely love it. I am a really big fan of y'all's. That's why I wanted you guys to be on the show. I was like, from the get-go, when I started talking to Elizabeth about the show, I was like, we need to talk to Cursus. Like, we have to go to San Antonio. I want to talk to these guys and, like, really talk about their music. Because since I saw you that first time at Bayou Doomfest, I just fell in love.
Yeah, I gotta admit too, like it was kind of a weird like accident. I think that how we ended up on that show. I think a lot of those Texas bands and stuff had already kind of been doing stuff like, you know, for years and stuff here in town, and we were kind of like the newcomers. And it turned out that our friend Susie, I guess, from actually Witch Crier Now, was in a different band, Hog Bitch, and they couldn't make...
I love that name.
Yeah, they actually couldn't make that event. So it was Susie who actually vouched for us and got us on the show.
She
and
hooked us up with Alexis. That's who she introduced us. And
Alexis is a real big peg for many of the people I talk to.
Yeah.
Even we went to a curio shop in Houston, and they were like, "Oh, we know the Doomstress," and it's just kind of funny because everybody kind of knows the Doomstress,
That's awesome.
which is good.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, she was super helpful, super inviting, nice, and I mean, we
took care
came
of
by,
us.
and I'm just really glad actually that night was really great for us. I think it was really, I don't know, people were really receptive to it. I think it was maybe because we hadn't really played a whole lot, but that was our first time in Houston, and like I just remember the energy being great. That was actually, I gotta admit, one of my favorite festival shows that I had ever been to. It was just run really professionally. Everybody was super nice. It was just like this great vibe of just like, you know, everybody just wanting to have like a really good time.
Killer bands.
And then just bring some heavy fucking music, and that's what it just was. I was telling Alexis that it just went seamlessly, and we made a lot of really great friends, and still a lot of them we keep in touch with today, along with yourself. So I think that kind of helped open the kind of the Texas doorway for us. So we're moving kind of a lot more within the Texas area, which is very important to us, you know, beyond of course the other states that we're going to visit. It's been a big strong like foothold for us.
Yeah, I sincerely hope that we get another Bayou Doomfest this year. It's a lot of fun to be introduced to so many bands from all across the state. And we all just get real drunk together and go eat tacos at the end. I think that's one of the best parts, other than the music, is the tacos. We're going to step into our second musical break. This one's called Hex Offender. we all listen to different music. I listen to probably 95% metal myself, and then every now and then you gotta like just slow it down and listen to something else. Because every now and then I'm just like, fuck, I don't want to hear this heavy shit. Like I want something just like a little bit more relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
And so recently I've been listening to like a lot of like psychedelic and stoner rock and stuff, and that's not super, super heavy, but stuff I can just jam on at work while I work because my job is incredibly tedious and boring. What piece of music moves you emotionally?
I can actually, it's kind of weird. I don't know if this is a direct response to it, but I could say things like simplicity is what I really love. I mean, yeah, I went from trying to listen to the fastest bands with the meanest scales and, the fastest drum beats and things like that. But I don't, listening to the whole like kind of gamut between such extreme music and such like really like mellow music, say like for example like ambient. Essentially, I like the fact that my ears aren't kind of trained to just like one type of thing or anything. It would just seem very like one colored world type of thing if I felt that way. So I like the fact that I like to listen to. A friend of mine actually likes to call it like anti-music because it's essentially like soundscapes. Essentially, most people call it ambient and things like this, and it's like creeping, like droning noises essentially that are like reminiscent of songs, I guess, but be more of pieces, movements again. And that really intrigued me because it made me realize that, music doesn't have to be, super complicated or, for someone to feel something from it. I guess I don't neglect the fact that, simplicity can be something very grand, I guess, in the music schemes, because it kind of helps kind of clean my mind, almost, I could say. It helps me relax when you get to open yourself up to like the full gamut of music like that. I think that's when you can get to really appreciate it.
Hey, I can't really speak to one kind of type of music. I was raised, both of my parents were metal and rock, and so I was raised on that my whole life. That's been my background. But I think it'd be kind of boring if that's all I had ever listened to my whole life. So at a very young age, I started getting into all kinds of stuff. And actually right now, my son's got me really into the Commodores. We've been listening to a lot of funk and stuff like that. So I'm always going off into, something different. My daughter's really into Fleetwood Macs. We've been jamming them a whole lot lately. Actually, I would say right now, most of the stuff I listen to just goes off of what my kids get into. So really into old stuff right now.
We appreciate, of course, the old stuff. So yeah, we're turning them on to like the classic rock and a lot of the stuff that we think is great, and even more like it's even greater that they're picking up on it, absorbing it, and they're really kind of on their musical track as well. So yeah, I mean, as long as we're playing it by ourselves, I mean, it definitely is very strongly influential in our house. We essentially have instruments like everywhere to kind of encourage them to start playing, and that we want to essentially kind of gear them toward more of that for an artistic expression, along with them doing like artwork and stuff. So
I grew up in a real heavily Christian house, so like as I turned into a young teenager, and specifically the first time I ever heard the Metallica Merciful Fate medley, which is like just super satanic at one point. I can't remember what Merciful Fate song they're playing, and I just kind of stuck to that, because before I started listening to like Black Sabbath Paranoid, my dad introduced us to Black Sabbath and Jethro Tull. I was listening to like Christian rap and like soft Christian rock, but that was the only. My mom was never like, hey, why don't you listen to this Blue Oyster Cult record, which she loved back in the day. She told me she like Blue Oyster Cult's like one of the first concerts she ever went to. Now instead we were listening to like Wilson and Phillips and shit. And it's funny because I'm 30 years old and I will still sing. I can remember being a kid in the minivan and mom listening to Wilson. And at work I will catch myself like humming their songs or like singing their songs to myself.
I'm not gonna lie, I know the words to some Wilson Phillips too.
It transcends everything. Tell me about your first gig together. What was your first gig like?
Essentially, we played at Night Rocker here in town, San Antonio. Actually was voted like the loudest bar, I think, in San Antonio, which we dug. Just an old friend of ours, Roland, has been a big, I guess,
Big part of the
there.
San Antonio music scene for a long time.
Yeah, and he wasn't afraid to like let us to introduce us, and what was kind of neat is he helped me showcase my artwork as well. I do glass carving and stuff, some 3-dimensional glass carving that he was wanting to showcase as well. So he put about 4 of my pieces up on the same night, and it was kind of a showcase. It kind of it has an esoteric feel, I guess you could say. A lot of the artwork. So essentially, we were bringing the first part of Cursus out that night. Was it Man-Eaters?
It was Man-Eaters of Savo, yeah.
Yeah, they played with us that night, and yeah, we had some projections and stuff running in the back, some incense burning, some cool lighting. We definitely brought some atmosphere and stuff that night, and essentially wanted to kind of bring people down into the basement with us that night. And yeah.
That just sounds like, come on down to my basement.
Yeah,
we're gonna worship a deity you may never see.
Yeah,
you guys.
I was just going to say it was a little rushed. I think the art thing kind of came first. He was going to display his work, and we had mentioned we'd been jamming and we're starting, and he's like, well, why don't y'all just do it together? And so we just scrambled to name the songs and like get it going, and we made it happen. We hadn't been playing for very long.
You guys definitely have this great like occult metaphysical feel and like look to the things that you guys do for Cursus.
I want to say, I want to say it's more of definitely more of a metaphysical, more of a state of mind, a consciousness type of thing. I feel like I approach, it's not more of like a black magic type of thing or anything. I think it's more meditative. Like I was saying, it's more of a state of mind that I like to bring people in. It's a very like a calming and a therapeutic thing for me. Music has always been. So essentially it's always felt like a cleansing, and especially when I get to crank up my amps and stuff, I feel this kind of rush that kicks in that lets me know that I've supposed to have been doing this my whole life, so definitely it has the appearance of being very seance-y, but I wouldn't say like we're, devil worshippers by any means or anything like that. It's more about bringing people into a place, into that space with, a little bit of non-reality. I think that people appreciate, and I think that people that they would long to be there, but they can't reach that space of mind, I guess, that where everything is ever expansive, anything can be achieved. Yeah, so I said, it's very meditative, and I want to continue to do it, continue to bring like more about whatever we can kind of grow with the intensity of the music, and with what we have, essentially try to kind of bring you in our space, essentially. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, after the show tonight, you guys don't want to go out in that field and try to evoke Satan.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I could see, essentially how a lot of it crosses over, and we work with a lot of bands with a lot of, a really dark imagery, devil energy, straight pentagrams and things like that. And, no, it's not, we're not essentially about that. Like I was saying, it's I think it's a little different. There's not a negative, although the music could be considered intense, there's a lot of screaming and stuff. It's more about passion, about raw emotion. And then it's more about, like I said, kind of more of a state of mind. And of course, it takes me a little while to get there. But once I think I can kind of feel it, it kind of permeates myself, and it kind of permeates the energy and things around me. So I guess it becomes infectious, and that's like what we like inviting people to. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody is going to feel that way, but essentially we try as hard as we can to bring that environment, and essentially like our story, you could say, like to people.
Well, I personally feel like you guys do an excellent job pushing that forward in your music. I really appreciate you guys being on the show. If you get a chance to see Cursus live in your hometown, go take off work, do what you have to do to see it, because you won't be disappointed, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about when you see it. Thank you both very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, all those things that you desire, you will find them there in the fire. And as always, hail Papa Emeritus. If you have any comments, questions, or hate mail, please send it to texasmetalshow@gmail.com.
Thanks for tuning into the 4th episode of the Texas Metal Show with Cursus. If you enjoyed their hypnotic sonnets, you can download these tracks and more at cursus.bandcamp.com. Stay tuned!